Thanks for tuning in to this special episode of Focus Black Oklahoma. This is the first of a three-part series focusing on Tulsa's historic Greenwood district.
Think of what can happen in a century. A world war, a global depression, military coups, massive peace demonstrations, pandemics, the eradication of once lethal diseases, revolutions in music, film, and literature, cultural shifts that open chasms between generations. Imagine living through all of that and being haunted over the decades by the same nightmare. That's how the 20th century went for Viola Ford Fletcher.
I'm a survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre. 2 weeks ago, I celebrated my 107th birthday.
She testified before Congress last May at a hearing to mark the Race Massacre centennial.
My family had a beautiful home. We had great neighbors, and I had friends to play with. I felt safe. I had everything a child could need. I had a bright future ahead of me, the chance to truly make it in this country. Within a few hours, all of that was gone. I will never forget the violence of the white mob. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire. I still see black businesses being burned. I still hear airplanes flying overhead. I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day.
As must Greenwood. The district still bears the scars of that white rampage.
Today, Greenwood is a ghost of its former self. Black ownership there of land, of businesses, the ownership that once made Greenwood a mecca of black excellence has plummeted. Once, there were more than 600 businesses across 35 city blocks. There were grocery stores, doctor's offices, restaurants, barbershops, hotels, theaters, and more. Today, there's only one block, just some 30 businesses. Interstate 244 looms over the Vernon AME Church, the lone structure that survived the massacre. North of the highway, the Oklahoma State University of Tulsa occupies much of the land that once was a truly exceptional black community. The highway, the transfer of land to non-black hands, these came decades after the massacre, because black Tulsans rebuilt their community after those cataclysms. However, urban renewal in the 1960s devastated it again.
Whether that devastation defines Greenwood now, or whether the district will once again rise, that is the question this Battle for Greenwood series explores. I'm Kuma Roberts.
And I'm Kolby Webster.
This episode is called Street Fight. Viola Ford Fletcher, the 107-year-old race massacre survivor who spoke before Congress last May, has, it's clear, a remarkable story. Even more remarkable, her story is not unique. She's not the only living survivor.
People call me Mother Randall. Today I am 106 years old. 100 years ago, in 1921, I was a 6-year-old child. I was blessed to live with my grandmother. I had a home, and I had toys. I didn't have any fear. I was a young child, and I felt very safe. Then everything changed. It was like a war. White men with guns came and destroyed my community.
Mother Randall's full name is Leslie Benningfield Randall. And last April, just before the Race Massacre centennial, she issued a cease and desist letter. The statement explained that she and her family, quote, were shocked, unquote, by a local group's conduct. She added that the group's members, quote, have refused to meet with me, did not allow me an opportunity to participate in the commission's planning, and declined to enter discussions on how I, a living survivor of the massacre, feels about their activities around the centennial, unquote. That group, the target of Mother Randall's stunned disbelief, is the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission.
So the Centennial Commission is the second commission on this history.
Phil Armstrong is the Centennial Commission's project director.
The first commission was established in 1997, the Oklahoma State Commission to study the race riot of 1921. It was from 1997 to 2001, a 200-page conclusive report that found and did all the research for the facts that we have now, the actual number of dead, the amount of financial damages that took place on Greenwood, the discussion of mass graves around Tulsa, and the story of what happened, what took place during that time of the massacre, in a full report that was submitted in 2001, and it offered 5 specific recommendations for reparations, and here we are 20 years later, 2021, and not one of those 5 recommendations have ever been enacted upon.
But this second iteration of the group has a different mandate.
This commission, established in 2015, solely was looking at commemorative planning for the impending 100th anniversary of this history.
State Senator Kevin Matthews founded this commission, and its roster reads like a short list of prominent Tulsans. The city's mayor, G.T. Bynum, Dr. Deborah Gist, head of Tulsa Public Schools, Ken Levitt, executive director of the George Kaiser Family Foundation, Francis Jordan Rakestraw, executive director of the Greenwood Cultural Center, and Reverend Dr. Robert Turner, pastor of the Vernon AME Church. All of them served as commissioners. There's also a pair of notorious ex-commissioners. Governor Kevin Stitt was ousted from the group in mid-May, a week after he signed a bill banning the teaching of critical race theory in state schools.
Governor Kevin Stitt here. I just signed House Bill 1775 into law. Now more than ever, we need policies that bring us together, not rip us apart. And as governor, I firmly believe that not 1 cent of taxpayer money should be used to define and divide young Oklahomans about their race or sex. That is what this bill upholds for public education.
And U.S. Senator James Lankford stepped down just before the centennial. Months earlier, on January 6th, he decried the, quote, constitutional crisis in our country, unquote, minutes before a pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol.
Protect the Constitution of the United States against enemies, foreign and domestic! Go! Watch out!
Senator Lankford, like the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and hundreds of non-aligned rioters that afternoon, considered President Joe Biden's 2020 Electoral College win illegitimate. His skepticism for Tulsa's black community was thinly veiled racism. State Representative Monroe Nichols, a Centennial Commission member at the time, commented, quote, "This is a great example of black people voting in record numbers with a coalition of people who look different, who are being told, no, their votes didn't count," unquote. State Representative Nichols then resigned from the commission, quitting in protest before Governor Stitt's dismissal. He called the critical race theory bill
a direct shot in the face for all of us who have been working hard on the commission, for all of us who have been working toward recognition and reconciliation. I would have to say it was the most disruptive thing that a governor could have done, and Kevin Stitt did it with a smile on his face.
But the commission's membership wasn't its only target of criticism. Its narrower scope, a focus on commemorative planning as opposed to the first commission's emphasis on documentation and justice, invited further tension. From people like Joe Williams, who served as a Tulsa city councilor from 1994 to 2004. He echoed Mother Randall when he wrote, quote, "This Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission and so-called remembrance of the destruction of Greenwood and slaughter of the several hundred innocent victims and celebration of Black Wall Street is one entirely big joke. The power brokers and system are just trying to make it appear to the nation and world like we are all kumbaya and all good together here in T-Town. They don't care at all about us or our community, and the disrespect is intolerable, unquote. A current city councilor, Vanessa Hall-Harper, agreed.
To me, it wasn't something that was truly created to address issues and concerns that affect the plight of the Black community today. I felt like and still feel like today that it is just a symbol. It's more symbolism that takes place in the city as it relates to justice, race relations, economic justice, etc. And so it was just an organization, in my opinion, that is created and doing things that's going to try to make Tulsa look like it's not a racist city.
For critics like Councilwoman Hall-Harper, one of the main efforts to this end, one of Tulsa's image-burnishing initiatives, is the Centennial Commission's flagship project, the Greenwood Rising History Center. To be clear, Greenwood has had a history center for decades.
Would you stand as we are dismissed in a word of prayer?
That's Bob Goodwin, former Oklahoma Eagle editor and CEO of the Points of Light Foundation in 1989. The Greenwood Cultural Center's Goodwin Chappelle Gallery at 322 North Greenwood Avenue, north of Interstate 244, had just opened.
Our Father, in the cycles of our human pilgrimage, we must always remember that in every accomplishment and in every success, we stand on the shoulders of others who have preceded us in our journey.
A half-decade later, the Greenwood Cultural Center expanded. State Representative Don Ross called its new $3 million facility, quote, the crown jewel of Greenwood, unquote. But for Michelle Brown, the Cultural Center's program coordinator, austerity had defined much of its history.
I think we've just been working in survival mode for so long. When I first started working here 25 years ago, you can remember when the office was full of people. I think at that time we had maybe 8 staff members. Now we have 2 full-time staff members, myself and Francis Jordan Rakestraw.
The Cultural Center's executive director. Reflecting on her experience with the Centennial Commission, Michelle emphasized its evolving aims and her shifting expectations.
Our earliest conversations at some of the initial meetings that I attended wasn't about an exhibit or a museum at all. It was simply about how can we create, we know there are going to be a lot of different activities and events, and we want to create a commemoration that is memorable and that truly pays respect and honor to this event and to the survivors and the descendants. But at some point, it went from how are we going to commemorate this event to we're going to renovate the Greenwood Cultural Center to we're just going to build a completely separate museum to tell the story.
Vanessa Hall-Harper believes this sequence of events revealed Tulsa's power structure.
Initially, I thought it was a great idea that they would raise funds, for example, to address the issues and concerns that plague the Greenwood Cultural Center that have been for years, decades, in fact. The state funding for the Greenwood Cultural Center was cut off. Who knows why? But for the last 10 years, more than 10 years, that the building has deteriorated. There was this effort to expand, improve and expand the Greenwood Cultural Center with this Greenwood Rising project. And But that was done only with the understanding or with the agreement that the organizational structure and operation of the Greenwood Cultural Center would change or be modified to what those in power or influence with the Centennial Commission says. And when that didn't happen, when they said, no, we're not going to change who we are or our structure and our organization, they took their money and left. Money is power. And that's control. And so they went down the street, which is where they're building now.
Greenwood Rising sits south of the highway at 23 North Greenwood Avenue. It opened to the public on August 4th.
Well, the museum hosted a soft opening in June, but it's now officially open to the public as of this morning. The museum is an interactive experience. We'll show you how it paints a picture of the history of Black Wall Street and the Greenwood District.
But Councilwoman Hall Harper considers this painting a diversion, a distraction from pressing questions.
And my question is, who's profiting from that? Who owns it? Who benefits? These are questions that need to be answered. And unfortunately, I think I already know the question, because the fact of the matter is, if you don't have land, you don't have anything.
Land ownership is a core issue in Greenwood, central to its history, shaping its near-term development and future prospects. And it's at the heart of Greenwood Rising's story. Michelle Brown explains.
At one point, it was going to be the museum was going to sit in our parking lot.
The parking lot of the Greenwood Cultural Center. But then a donor stepped in.
I have to thank and bring acknowledgement. If you don't know, for those that are watching online, this building stands here because of a tremendous gift. You'll hear from them later on, but I want to acknowledge them myself. Miss Mary Ann Hilly and the Hilly Family Foundation donated the land for which this building sits upon.
That's Phil Armstrong, the Centennial Commission project director we heard from earlier, shouting out the donors at Greenwood Rising's opening ceremony on June 2nd.
And in spite of what some of our critics may have said, yes, donate means 100% free and clear with no strings attached.
The Hilly Foundation, according to news reports, donated 1/3 of an acre for Greenwood Rising. The nonprofit was founded in 1997 by Joe Bob and Mary Ann Hilly. Joe Bob also co-founded Tulsa-based Vintage Petroleum and served as the firm's CEO before retiring in 1999. He died in 2006. Mary Ann spoke last year about her foundation's giving guidelines.
We don't orchestrate what is asked of us. So we wait and see who has put a program together, who's doing what. So that's how we start, and that can change as the needs of the community change, and that's what we watch.
Through those observations, the nonprofit has chosen to back the Tulsa Zoo, the Gathering Place, and Green Arch, a 90,000 square foot mixed-use building on the southeast corner of North Greenwood Avenue and East Archer Street.
There are several links connecting that building to the Hilly family. As the site was being developed, for example, Tulsa attorney Kajir Yar worked both as the Hilly Foundation's counsel and for the firm Green Arch LLC, overseeing construction. The Hilly Foundation is a majority owner of Green Arch LLC, and Yar is married to Maggie Hilly Yar, the youngest daughter of the foundation's co-founders. And online records available through the Tulsa County Assessor's Office show that Green Arch LLC bought 2 parcels for the building from the Tulsa Development Authority in May 2012. The sale price was $667,000. The land, still owned by Green Arch LLC, now has a fair cash value above $7,500,000. Green Arch building loomed above attendees at Greenwood Rising's ribbon cutting last June. Maggie Healy-Yar spoke at the ceremony.
This is a big day. It's an emotional day. As I stand here before you, I stand on the shoulders of my parents. And it's with them under me that I learned the values of having a generous heart, belief in people, belief in hope, opportunity, and justice. In this soil, the blood and the ashes are calling to us, and we hear their voices. And as they are speaking, it is our responsibility to listen, because in their words is the truth, and truth matters. And it is with that that our foundation wanted to donate this land to this history center to tell the truth. With the truth that we can all hear and listen and know, we can have accountability, and with accountability comes justice. With justice comes unity.
Phil Armstrong agrees. He thinks the Hilly Foundation's land donation corrects historical wrongs.
Greenwood Rising initially was going to be planned to be the Greenwood Cultural Center. Here's the issue. That land is not owned by the Greenwood Cultural Center. It is owned by the city of Tulsa. The city of Tulsa owns the building. The city of Tulsa owns the land that it's on. So when we had an opportunity to sign a lease, we were going to end up signing a sublease to the Greenwood Cultural Center with a sublease to the city of Tulsa as a master lease holder. When you have the opportunity to build this history center on land that's given to you, free and clear, versus signing a lease, which do you think you're going to go for? The citizens of Greenwood, what made the Greenwood happen so incredibly for black citizens, that they owned what they build their land on. We had an opportunity to own the land that we're building this history on, and build it at a place called Greenwood and Archer, which historically was the gateway to where you entered into what was Black Wall Street.
But the Tulsa County Assessor's Office doesn't list the Centennial Commission as owner of the Greenwood Rising site. It lists the Hilly Foundation, and this property record was last updated on April 13th, 2021, nearly a year after the Hilly Foundation's land donation was first reported. We reached out to Maggie Healy-Yar about this issue, but she declined to comment. The Greenwood Rising site was previously owned by the Tulsa Development Authority, which acquired it from the Missouri Pacific Railroad Company in May 1990. The Tulsa Development Authority then transferred ownership to Green Arch LLC, the construction firm majority owned by the Hilly Foundation, in December of 2019. A month later, in January 2020, the Hilly Foundation itself acquired the land. What's striking is that no price is listed for any of these sales. The Tulsa Development Authority gained possession of the site via a quitclaim deed, a legal instrument used to transfer property. Green Arch LLC and the Hilly Foundation, for their parts, came to possess the land through special warranty deeds. Special warranty deeds, unlike quitclaim deeds, offer protections to new owners. This complex chain of events, one that, by Tulsa County records, kept Greenwood Rising under Hilly Foundation ownership, hasn't undercut Armstrong's confidence in the importance of that Greenwood and Archer site.
Not only historically is the location relevant, but the fact that we can say we're taking back some of the land that had been taken from these individuals years ago during the 70s and 80s when this area was given up and the Tulsa Development Authority acquired a lot of this land. We're getting some of it back.
The Tulsa Development Authority, that 70s and 80s land grab he's referring to, is what's called urban renewal. In 1956, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce released a 24-minute film pushing for urban renewal. The film spotlights our state.
Another exciting observation is found in the small community of Bartlesville, Oklahoma, the now famous Price Tower by Frank Lloyd Wright. For a small town, this building is quite amazing because it has offices and apartments on the same floor. Many people are putting strong accent on convenience, even in small communities.
And its opening scene ties with seemingly no self-awareness, urban renewal, to the long history of U.S. colonialism.
In New York, there stands an impressive statue of Columbus, a reminder that this is a new continent in the light of history. America not so long ago was a continent of wilderness and open space. Excitement stirred in the hearts of a multitude of men as eyes turned toward the challenge of a new land. Now America is a land of mighty cities, and much of our space has been transformed into urban density. Practically all American cities, large and small, have a similar pattern of density. The truly dynamic American cities are those that are coming to grips with the problem of outmoded structures. Increasingly, we are seeing large-scale demolition as the first step in building modern cities. The need of the hour is to acquire plottage by merging narrow lots for a new start.
To acquire plottage through large-scale demolition, even advocates couldn't hide the destruction urban renewal entailed. Sean Schaefer, director of the University of Oklahoma's Urban Design Studio, reviewed the program's history and impact for the YouTube series Everybody Loves Tulsa.
Well, I think urban renewal, it first started after World War II with the Housing Act of 1949. The country was changing rapidly after the war. There was a lot of suburbanization beginning. There were a lot of new planning ideas that came from Europe that were being implemented at that time, modifying the city for better transportation and addressing blighted areas in the downtown areas and providing more housing. At least that was ostensibly what the purpose of it was. Where did it go wrong? I think it went wrong in many ways. I mean, the first thing about urban renewal is that it was often much easier to remove things than to build them back. So you could go in and take out 100 housing units, but then it wasn't likely that you would get 100 housing units back. Or if you did, they'd be in a different form. It wasn't really an organic neighborhood anymore. It was a housing complex or a housing project. I think it was used, to remove blighted populations, in some cases to make room for economic development opportunities. And the neighborhoods weren't actually even blighted to begin with, right? But they would use that, as a term of art to justify it. It was also used as part of the interstate highway expansion program. So they would vacate property to make room for the highways.
That policy generated strong criticisms at the time. Here's James Baldwin in 1963.
A boy last week, who was 16 in San Francisco, told me on television. He said, "I got no country, I've got no flag." Now, he's only 16 years old. And I couldn't say you do. I don't have any evidence to prove that he does. They were tearing down his house because San Francisco is engaging, as most northern cities now are engaged, in something called urban renewal, which means moving the Negroes out. It means Negro removal. That is what it means. And the federal government is an accomplice to this fact.
In Tulsa today, that criticism resonates with Vanessa Hall Harper.
You do value space so you can buy it for pennies and then come in and gentrify it. And the government plays a huge role in there. The local government has and will continue to play a huge role in that. They do it through eminent domain. They do it through so-called urban renewal, or what I call urban removal.
And she challenges Phil Armstrong's take on Greenwood Rising. The building is not, in her opinion, undoing urban renewal's legacy.
One could argue, since the second rebuilding of Greenwood, that it has been very intentional that the black community does not own Greenwood. Who are the landowners of Greenwood? The historic Greenwood district. Who are the landowners? And why is this sacred land primarily owned or certainly under the control of governmental entities and not the people and not the descendants of the legacy and what we know Greenwood is? It means urban renewal, right?
Urban renewal, as Councilwoman Hall Harper indicates, is ongoing. Decades after city commissioners formed the Tulsa Urban Renewal Authority in 1959, revitalization projects continue to reshape downtown blocks, and they still impact the Greenwood district.
Wow, doesn't this site look great? Okay, maybe not right now, but very shortly our brand new downtown ballpark will be rising right here. We have a special announcement coming up today at 4 o'clock at the Greenwood Cultural Center.
Chuck Lamson, former owner of the Tulsa Drillers minor league baseball team, made that announcement in January 2010. The ballpark opened 3 months later in April.
All right, welcome everyone to our official opening of One Oak Field. Today begins a historic new chapter in Tulsa professional baseball history as we return to downtown Tulsa after 80 years. 1, 2, 3. Somebody forgot to sharpen the sticker.
You're welcome. Thank you. Enjoy.
There you go. Welcome to Oak Field.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and join the Tulsa Ballpark Choir in singing America the Beautiful.
Many Tulsans were thrilled with the development.
We're from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we're so ready for baseball season to start.
We're really excited about the new stadium. I think it's a great thing for Tulsa, and just really looking forward to lots of people coming out and supporting the team and enjoying a great summer out here at the ballpark.
We're just enjoying the field. It looks great. It's nice to have a nice new facility. The food smells really great.
Local news coverage placed the stadium in, quote, downtown Tulsa, unquote. But it's in the Greenwood district. Its southeastern edge abuts Greenwood and Archer, across the street from the Green Arch building at the far corner from the Greenwood Rising History Center. Kathy Taylor, Tulsa's mayor from 2006 to 2009, explains this location wasn't inevitable.
We had 3 locations downtown, so we could have built it for the 2 other locations were further south downtown that we could have built it in.
In other words, beyond Greenwood's boundaries. According to the Tulsa World, the first site was on the west bank of the Arkansas River near downtown, and the second was in the East Village, where the city had a previous nibble from an out-of-state developer wanting to build a ballpark, a project that never materialized. It wasn't until issues arose with acquiring land in the East Village that the focus turned to the small Greenwood site owned by the Tulsa Development Authority. That entity, the Tulsa Development Authority, or TDA, is a relic of urban renewal's heyday. Its original name was the Tulsa Urban Renewal Authority. But on the eve of the ballpark's construction, TDA didn't own the stadium site. Plat records available on the Tulsa County Clerk's website show that the site's owner, by December 2009, was the Tulsa Stadium Trust. And that body had ties to a private charity with far more power and much more notoriety than the Hilly Foundation. In December 2008, the Tulsa World reported that the Tulsa Stadium Trust, the owner of the eventual Drillers Stadium site, had received only one bid to construct a nearly $40 million downtown baseball stadium. Phil Lakin submitted that bid on behalf of the Tulsa Stadium Construction Company, LLC. He's currently a Tulsa City Councilor. Here he is addressing North Tulsa constituents.
I appreciate you reminding us of the fact that we have to put this front and center more often. I've already explained that I'm addressing this from a different angle. I'm still absolutely 100% in favor of getting you access to fresh food as you have asked for. So I'm going to recommit to you that I'll do everything that I possibly can from the governmental sector, from the philanthropic sector.
Philanthropic because he's been CEO of the Tulsa Community Foundation since 1999. But while it's clear Lakin plays many roles, the idea of him as a stadium developer was, for some, hard to believe. Michael Bates, a prolific Tulsa blogger, admitted, quote, "I knew Phil Lakin was an accomplished gentleman, but I never knew he was in construction," unquote. And Bates's skepticism didn't end there. He wondered why the stadium, a major project, didn't receive more bids. As he asked in a sardonic post, quote, "Where was the request for proposals posted? On the internet? On the City Hall bulletin board? Hermetically sealed in a mayonnaise jar on the porch of Funk and Wagnalls?" Unquote. Bates also questioned the Tulsa World's assertion that no conflicts of interest exist between the construction company and the Stadium Trust. For him, there was, quote, "certainly the appearance of a conflict," unquote. A conflict relating to Lakin's role as CEO of the Tulsa Community Foundation and to one of the project's leading donors.
Just as important as living in the today is planning for the tomorrow. Here's to those who live life to the fullest, without losing focus. Bank of Oklahoma. Long live your money.
There were several links between that bank and the foundation. For example, Steve Bradshaw Sr., who was the Bank of Oklahoma's executive vice president at the time, was also a foundation board member. Another board member was Stan Liebarger, then CEO and president of the Bank of Oklahoma and chairman of the Tulsa Stadium Trust. At the center of this financial philanthropic nexus, you'll find Tulsa's most powerful benefactor.
My motivation for philanthropy was largely guilt, because I realized that I gained advantages by being born in an advanced society with loving parents. And if I had not been born in an advanced society of loving parents, I may not have had the opportunity to accomplish what I did.
George Kaiser, worth nearly $10 billion, is Tulsa's most famous philanthropist. He's the primary owner of GBK Corporation. That's the parent company of the Kaiser Francis Oil Company, a firm he also manages. And he's the majority owner of the BOK Financial Corporation. But he's best known for his George Kaiser Family Foundation. Here's Ken Levitt, the foundation's executive director and Centennial Commission member, explaining the nonprofit's work.
Our central mission is about intervening in the cycle of poverty and creating opportunity for families, but we're also trying to create a more diverse, energetic, vibrant community here in Tulsa.
Kaiser says that altruism, an urge to help as many people at a young age as possible, drives his charitable work. Note, Focus Black Oklahoma is supported in part by Tulsa Artists Fellowship and the George Kaiser Family Foundation.
I'm responsible neither for my genetics nor for my nurturing. So I focused in addressing my philanthropy less on my historical or my life experiences than I did on what I thought the purest form of charity was, and that was to give all children an equal opportunity at birth. The mantra of our foundation is that no newborn child bears any responsibility for the circumstances of his or her birth, and yet his or her future is heavily dependent upon those circumstances.
But Kaiser's critics say his charity, fundamentally, is a mask for self-interest. For example, Philanthropy Daily reports that the George Kaiser Family Foundation isn't exactly a foundation as conventionally understood. Instead, it's what's called a, quote, supporting organization, unquote, of the Tulsa Community Foundation, the nonprofit that Phil Lakin, who submitted the loan bid for the Driller Stadium, leads. This arrangement with the George Kaiser Family Foundation, quote, supporting, unquote, the Tulsa Community Foundation, benefits Kaiser whenever tax day arrives. It allows him to use more of his donations to lower his personal income tax bill. And it also exempts him from legal requirements that, under different arrangements, would obligate him to give away at least 5% of his family foundation's assets each year. The upshot, according to Georgetown University's Pablo Eisenberg, is that the Kaiser Foundation is, quote, not supporting anything but itself, unquote. If that's the case, if financial self-interest rather than altruism is the major force shaping Kaiser's nonprofit work, it would be consistent with his personal history. The Sunlight Foundation, which promotes transparency and accountability in government, found that as Kaiser rocketed onto the Forbes 400 list in the late 1990s, he reported taxable income to the Internal Revenue Service just once, totaling $11,699, equivalent to a full-time hourly wage of $5.62. This record suggests Kaiser has something in common with other billionaires.
A journalism non-profit is claiming several of the richest Americans paid zero income tax in some recent years. ProPublica claims to have seen tax returns showing Amazon chairman Jeff Bezos, the world's richest person, remember, made zero payments in 2007 and 2011. Meanwhile, the world's second richest tycoon, Tesla's Elon Musk, also paid precisely $0 in federal income taxes in 2018, according to ProPublica. Financial giant George Soros, also known as the man who broke the Bank of England, paid no income tax over 3 consecutive years. ProPublica reported that the 25 richest Americans paid a tax rate of just 3.4% between 2014 and 2018. That's a lot less than the 14% paid by the average American household.
And there's some irony here in Kaiser's tax history, given the way that the Tulsa Driller Stadium was financed.
We had to get the downtown businesses to increase their contribution to the business improvement district. There was already a business improvement district in place. We had to increase the amount they were paying to contribute to the development of One Oak Field.
That's former Tulsa Mayor Kathy Taylor explaining the reasoning behind the downtown assessment fee. The payment stems from a 2008 Tulsa City Council decision which required all downtown land and building owners to help pay off the debt on the ballpark over 30 years. The Tulsa World reported that the county's bill would soar nearly 950% on properties within the district as a result. The fee outraged several downtown property owners who filed suit to cancel it. In their petition, they argued that the stadium's costs, quote, should be paid for by all of the property owners in the city, unquote, and that the assessment was a coercive use of government authority in violation of clearly stated statutory and constitutional protections. For Kathy Taylor, the cost increase served a noble purpose.
The concept, and not universally adopted 100%, but the theory of a lot of community members, not the building owners, but community members, was that was the largest investment north of the railroad tracks that we had made, right? And so that was going to ignite development in the area.
That was the promise made to the city, and especially to Greenwood when the ballpark was being built, that it would usher in a new era.
You know, we were investing in an area that was going to really ignite Greenwood, ignite that development, north of the railroad track. Whether it actually did what we hoped, I haven't seen. I don't know the data because I wasn't there afterwards.
Others have been there, and they're critical of the project. In 2019, for example, the Tulsa World interviewed the Greenwood Cultural Center's Michelle Brown. We featured her earlier this episode. Asked to comment on the ballpark, she explained, quote, "It did not bring jobs to our community, and it has not had a huge impact economically," unquote. And a Washington Post piece, published in January, quoted LaToya Rose of Greenwood's Rose Tax Solutions. She lamented, quote, "the whitewashing of blacks out of Greenwood," unquote, a development she traces to the stadium's opening. Furthermore, a review of the scholarship on ballparks and development suggests that this outcome, the failure of the Driller Stadium to ignite Greenwood, was predictable. This is no small point. Tulsa's powerful philanthropists and politicians portray themselves as data-driven decision makers.
I'm Jennifer Bradley of the Center for Urban Innovation at the Aspen Institute. I'm here with Mayor G.T. Bynum of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we're talking about the use of data and evidence to drive innovation and decision-making in local government. So, Mayor Bynum, what made you interested in using data and evidence to inform the decisions that you make as mayor?
Well, my initial interest in it came when I was a member of our city council and recognized that so much of what we do in local government was being based on gut feel, anecdotal information about what people had seen in the past, not really based on any evidence or data that people had.
Great. So what would you say to an incoming mayor or city council person who also wants to get more conversant in and use data and evidence to drive decision making?
I guess I would have probably two pieces of advice. One is that it takes time to turn the culture within an organization. Very few, this is a new frontier in city government around the United States. So very few city governments are accustomed to utilizing data to make proactive decisions. The other thing I would say, and this was something we took a lot of confidence from looking at cities like Louisville and Baltimore, so you don't have to spend a whole lot of money on it on the outset.
But it's far from clear Tulsa politicians and developers had the data needed to make the promises they made about the stadium. An April 1990 article in the journal Growth and Change, for example, concluded the evidence presented here is that the presence of a new or renovated stadium has an uncertain impact on the levels of personal income and possibly a negative impact on local development relative to the region. These results should serve as a caution to those who assume or assert a large positive stadium impact. A 1994 article titled Estimating the Economic Impact of a Minor League Baseball Stadium, published in Managerial and Decision Economics, found that the resulting economic impacts were substantially smaller than those claimed by stadium construction proponents. And a 2007 study in Contemporary Economic Policy determined that little of the academic research that investigates effects ex post finds significant increases in income, employment, taxable sales, or tax revenues associated with sports and sports facilities. But if the stadium failed to ignite Greenwood, what can the community expect from the new Greenwood Rising Center? Stay with us as we go back to its opening event last summer. The prospect of renewal, of Greenwood reborn, was palpable at Greenwood and Archer on June 2nd. Sam Combs III, a Tulsa business leader, emceed the new History Center's dedication ceremony.
It is a distinct honor to welcome you to the dedication of Greenwood Rising, the capstone project of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission. It is our hope that Greenwood Rising is a space that promotes the processing that leads to healing, the conversations that are necessary to lead to justice and reconciliation. It is our hope that Greenwood Rising will be that special place for you and your families and for this community.
Local Projects, the exhibition design firm behind Greenwood Rising, shares this hope. Here's Lorraine Arthur Menza, a project director with the firm comparing the History Center to more traditional museums.
I think Greenwood Rising does something, has a very different mission. But what I do think it does is contributes to the overall consciousness and awareness of Black history in this country. And it humanizes history for the visitor. It pulls it out of the textbook and gives kind of the human story and perspective. It's very straightforward, very clear, very blunt. Most museums that you walk through, there are not a lot of opportunities to kind of sit down and digest some of the really difficult information that you've just encountered. We want to give people space to actually digest and contextualize for themselves what they've just read or experienced, and then hopefully engage in conversation with others.
Arthur Menza highlighted the center's virtual barbershop experience, which features crosstalk among a trio of three-dimensional holograms as an embodiment of its mission.
Now, as far as the barbershop is concerned, I think, this plays into also, this idea of this is not a straight up historical museum. It is an experience that we want people to have because we are trying to, again, change hearts and minds.
Phil Armstrong thinks this effort will not only succeed, but bring justice to Greenwood.
People can come here and see this history and walk away never ever saying, I did not know this happened, but walk away saying, now that this has happened and I'm aware of it, what can we do going forward? How can we now get the city of Tulsa and the state government to enact the 20-year-old commission report that still has not been acted upon? The pressure of the world will be awakened to what this is through Greenwood Rising so that this community can finally see its due justice and not keep it a secret anymore. The world will be made aware, and it's going to come through Greenwood Rising.
Others, like North Tulsa activist Greg Robinson, question this logic.
Frankly, the focus of the Race Massacre Centennial Commission is the main thing that has been frustrating. Why not focus on getting justice and reparations from the very beginning for an act that's never been atoned for? Why focus on creating a tourist attraction when you don't have community ownership of the land? You don't have real, true, deep engagement from descendants within that process. It really felt to a lot of people, and I think I can speak confidently that this was an instance of the massacre and our story and ancestor story being used, frankly, to further a false narrative about where Tulsa has come in the last 100 years. Why are you on a Centennial Commission in the first place if you're not willing to stand for justice and reparations for the event that you're supposedly commemorating?
North Tulsans had another question. What about the money? What about the $30 million the Centennial Commission raised, $20 million of which went to Greenwood Rising?
I love Tulsa, but there's no romance without finance.
That's State Senator Kevin Matthews, the Centennial Commission's chair, professing his love at the Greenwood Rising dedication. Vanessa Hall Harper wasn't feeling it.
If you are going to pull together an organization, a commission, and you're going to raise $30 million, and it's not benefiting the people, then what's the purpose? What's the point? It's more profiting. It's gentrification. It's gentrification by blackface. Is what they're doing. And again, who's benefiting? That's the question one must ask. Just think if they would have raised $30 million and put it in black entrepreneurship. But you put another history center in Greenwood.
We want to thank you for listening to this first segment in our three-part series, The Battle for Greenwood. Part 2, What's Next, or Is Greenwood Rising, airs in October.
Our team includes Nick Alexandrov, Jamie Glisson, Carlos Moreno, Jesse Ulrich, Kolby Webster, and Devin Williams. Focus Black Oklahoma's executive producers are Quraysh Ali Lansana and Bracken Klar. Our associate producers are Nick Alexandrov and Vanessa Gaona. Focus Black Oklahoma is supported in part by KOSU Radio, Tulsa Artist Fellowship, the George Kaiser Family Foundation, and the Schusterman Family Philanthropies. Focus Black Oklahoma is a project of Tri-City Collective.